Hello everyone and welcome back. We just got a brand new 4.1.1 PTU patch, and boy oh boy do we have some interesting stuff to go over today. There have been some pretty big changes to ship weapons overall. We're going to go test a lot of that. There have also been a few other interesting omissions or just other small things that I noticed in the patch notes, as well as some bug fixes that we're going to go check out as well. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. So let's do a brief run over of the features and gameplay and different additions in this patch. So for locations, there have been further increases to the Area 18 Armistice Zone size, again to prevent people from getting into that area where the Idris is supposed to be, just keep it decluttered and hopefully not tank everyone's frame rate. But the big thing is under ships and vehicles, we have greatly increased turret and main weapon capacitor ammunitions across all ships. So I assume that is if you're in a fighter, your laser weapons have increased capacity. If you're in a turret, your weapons have increased capacity. So we're going to test some fighters and some bigger ships with turrets, and we're going to test all of it and see what all the new changes are with cannons and repeaters and all of that. So let's go ahead and get straight into testing that out. So first, let's start by trying out the F7A. So by default, the F7A comes with 2 size 4 Gatling guns and 4 size 3 laser cannons. I believe they are Omniskyes. So let's just go try it in its default configuration. I know recently they had increased the max ammo capacity of laser cannons. I believe it was from 15 to 25 shots in total you could have charged up at one time. But potentially that has been changed. So let's jump to the hangar, let's get in and see what is different. So at least on the Hornet, for the Omniskyes, it's showing as the same ammo count for me. The Hornet is only able to push it to 24 shots on full weapon power. So very interesting. I wonder if maybe it's laser repeaters or something that have had that change. But at least on this, I'm not seeing any change on the Hornet. Let's try a slightly bigger ship. Maybe let's try the Zeus CL that I have. Let's pull that out and see what we get with that. Alright, here we got the Zeus CL. So by default, the Zeus has 2 size 4 pilot weapons. They are size 4 Omnisky laser cannons again. So we'll see if those have any additional ammo for them, because I believe they currently the max ammo count for them is 25. But there's also a remote turret on the Zeus with 2 size 3 Panther repeaters. So we'll check both of those and we'll see if there are any changes to that. Alright, let's go ahead and power this on. And we'll put full power to weapons. So again, it's not seeming that the pilot-controlled weapons at least have any additional ammo. It's still just the 25 shots maximum. So let's next check the remote turret and see if we have any changes there. So we can see if you look in the top left, you can see that ammo count for the remote turret still 75. So nothing different for the Panther repeaters. So I wonder if maybe it's only on bigger ships like the HammerHead and the Polaris or things like that have the bigger ammo pools. I don't know. The way they word it though in the patch notes makes it sound like all ships should have some increase. So not entirely sure on that. Let's pull out. Let's do the HammerHead next. We'll check that and see what changes there are there, if any, and then we'll also check the Polaris as well. Alright, so here we have the HammerHead, and while I was waiting for this to come up, I actually noticed they edited slightly the patch note wording. So they changed it to greatly increase turret and main weapon capacitor ammunitions across ships with turrets. Now, again, I just tried the Zeus, and that has a turret on it, and it didn't seem to have any change to the ammo, but maybe a more dedicated, anti-fighter ship like the HammerHead will have those changes. So let's jump in. We'll go check out what those changes might be. Alright, so we got the ship turned on, full weapon power, and now let's run to one of the turrets and see what the changes are. Alrighty, let's see what changes we got. Full power on. Usually you have to shoot it for a moment and then you have to let it charge up. Oh boy, that... Okay. Yeah, looks like we've got more ammo on the HammerHead. We'll let it fully charge up. We're at 200... 220, 250, 270, 300. 300 shots on the HammerHead. That's a lot. I think that's definitely going to help turrets. Just being able to lay down, that will make it almost like you could almost be firing constantly. That's a really good change. Now, I think one other thing they could do that probably wouldn't be too difficult to implement for turrets is if they could give them, like, if you're on a turret, those weapons on that turret get some sort of like velocity modifier. It'll make it a lot easier and more reliable for turrets to hit targets. Because right now turrets really have a hard time being able to like reliably hit beyond like maybe 700 meters at the most, maybe a kilometer, especially if it's a good pilot. So I think larger capacitor pools is definitely a big improvement, but I think there are still some more things that we could have adjusted that could definitely make turrets a little bit more viable. So that's the HammerHead. So it should be 300 across all the different turrets because they are all size 4, quad size 4. So now let's go check out the Polaris. That has a couple different variants, well, different sizings of turrets. Let's go see what differences we have there. Alright, we've got our weapon power to full on the Polaris. Let's first go test out one of the top turrets that those have quad size 4s, and then we'll also check one of the side turrets that has quad size 3s. Okay, so also by default, the Polaris's top turrets have Omnisky laser cannons on them, so we fire that real quick. Hold on, there we go. We'll let these charge up for a minute. Looks like they will add a significant amount of capacitor. We're already past 25, which currently is the max for those guns, so we'll just let it charge up to full and see what we get to. Okay, so it looks like with full weapon power and with the Omnisky size 4 laser cannons on these turrets, you get 94 shots, so that's quite a lot of firepower. Now, I imagine a lot of people are probably going to be switching these to the Rhino repeaters as well. So I may actually go change one of these, the turret to Rhinos in a moment here, and we'll just double check it. I assume it'll probably be the same 300 ammo cap as the HammerHead, although you never know because it's a bigger ship. Maybe it has a little bit bigger capacitor pool. I don't know. We'll check that out in a minute. Now let's go check one of the side turrets. Those have Panther repeaters on them, so we should get a little bit better estimate from that. Alright, so let's let them charge up real quick here. They're charging pretty darn quick. We'll see how much we get on these. Okay, so actually it looks like our full capacitor charge on these Panthers is 282. So that, I think, potentially the max cap for these weapons then has probably been raised to 300, but I think the Omniskys take a little bit more power overall. So that may be why the power on these other ones is reduced. So if we switch the other ones to Rhinos, it probably would correct that issue. But that's definitely quite an improvement. You're going to be able to fire for a long time. And they recharge pretty quick too. I feel like maybe they could raise the recharge rate maybe 25% on these. Because, I mean, it is a very large capacitor pool, but I think it still has the same regen rate as currently. So I think if they raise that, it would make it a little bit quicker to get back up to full capacitor. Makes sense for these bigger ships as well. They could recharge their weapons faster. So that's maybe one other little improvement they could make. But yeah, let's go ahead and let me change the other turrets to Rhinos. We'll just double check that real quick. Now, as I'm going to change the weapons on this, I did notice now the name for the torpedoes is there properly. It's not showing as like a placeholder name. So it looks like the default torpedo on the Polaris is the VT-T10 Veritas torpedo. That is a size 10 infrared torpedo. And there should be some other options for cross-section and EM as well that are available, but it looks like that has been updated. Alright, so now we've got Rhinos on here, so let's see if that ammo count changes at all and see what we get. Okay, so it looks like when it gets fully charged up, we are at 292 shots, so I would expect that to also reflect on the size 3 turrets, so it looks like we just have ever so slightly less capacitor power than the HammerHead. 8 shots out of 300. Not really that big of a deal in my opinion. I guess it kind of makes more sense that the HammerHead would have a little bit more power available since it's more of a dedicated anti-fighter ship, possibly. I don't know. Not a big deal in my opinion, but good to see that there have been these improvements made. Really looking forward to. I think this will definitely make being in a turret at least somewhat more rewarding and fun. Like just being able to just almost endlessly fire your guns is like really, really fun. And if you're in like a fully crewed Polaris, fully crewed HammerHead, and you just see all those bajillions of lasers firing for just forever basically, it'll just look really cool. So I think that'll be really, really fun to test out once we go to live. As I was running around the Invictus Hall, I did check in the Pipeline Discord, and they posted, they have got some of the modifier amounts for some of the ships that have had their turret capacities increased. It doesn't seem like it's actually all ships that have had turrets, but there's a good amount. So I'll just go through, I'll throw it up on the screen here and we'll name a few. So the HammerHead has got a 4x modifier. The Retaliator has got a 5x modifier. The Gladiator is a 2.5x. Valkyrie is a 3x. Hercules is a 3x. The Caterpillar is a 3x. A lot of them are 3x's or 4. Polaris is a 4x. The 890 Jump, 4x. So very, very big modifier differences for a lot of these ships. And I think there's a lot of ships that I think maybe just got forgotten or they didn't quite get them implemented, because there's a lot more ships than that have turrets that, like I tested earlier, the Zeus didn't have any differences. So potentially there are going to be some additional adjustments to that in future patches. Wouldn't be surprised. But very interesting to note all of those modifier changes for those turrets. Now, I did want to show some of the changes you would see on some of the other ships from those that modifier list. So if we look here at the Redeemer, we just got to switch everything to laser repeaters. We can see that we have quite the increase to the overall ammo count. So if you're in one of those dual size 4-man turrets, you're looking at 188 shots per gun. I think that is replicated across all the other guns of the Redeemer, including the pilot controlled guns. So quite a bit more firepower there. If we look at the Aegis Retaliator, that has multiple turrets that all have dual size 3s. That has been changed, so now, well, it has the same guns, but now those turrets have 300 shots per gun. So a lot of sustained firepower on that. Then if we look at the Anvil Gladiator, that has also had a change. It's gotten a 2.5x modifier difference on that. So it looks like that one on the Gladiator, that affects the pilot's weapons as well. The pilot here now has 170 shots for those 2 size 4 pilot weapons you get. And it looks like the gunner also gets that for the 2 Panthers that are on the Gladiator. So very interesting that the Gladiator got some changes for that. But some of the other heavy fighters that have turrets like the Scorpius and the Vanguard, those have not gotten changes for that. So potentially we'll see more of that adjusted in future builds, but at least for now, the Gladiator has had that change. And then if we look at the Drake Corsair, that has also had a buff. So it has a 2x multiplier. So if you have the laser cannons on there, you'll be getting 38 shots out of those now. But if you're on one of the turrets that has the Badger repeaters, those are at 114 shots by default. So quite a bit more sustained firepower there. I know a lot of people will switch the repeaters to, or the laser cannons by default to repeaters. So let me change those over and we'll see what the difference is there. So with that, those laser repeaters on the Rhinos and Galderines, you get 121 shots on the Corsair. So that's pretty significant, especially if you're solo. That is going to be even more sustained firepower. Like even if you're solo, let's say you even take all the other guns off the little size 2s, that'll give you a little bit more capacitor. You can get it up to 150 shots for all of the pilot guns. So that is pretty insane. I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that do that now, and they're solo Corsair, but it's a lot of firepower. I think that'll get a lot more people to use the Corsair for sure. And now before we get to checking out some bug fixes, I did want to mention that one thing I noticed in the omission of in the patch notes now is there had previously been a not ready for feedback section, and in there it had included the redacted section that I think everyone thought was going to be the flight plates. That is gone. That section is no longer in the patch notes. So either that was just a mistake, or possibly what it could be is they realized there's just not enough time before Invictus to get those in tested thoroughly. So they've pushed those to potentially another patch. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they're still coming. I don't know. But just a little thing I noticed that they had changed there. So let's go ahead. We're going to go check out just a couple bug fixes related to the juvenile Valakkar. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. Alrighty, here we are in Daymar. Going to grab one of the cards and put that in, and then we'll see if the Valakkar spawn. I know that's been an issue if they haven't spawned. And then the next issue is they're supposed to have lootable fangs now, but you weren't able to loot them. And the most recent fix in this build is they had been invulnerable to damage, so even if you could theoretically get the fangs from them, you couldn't kill them. So we're going to try that and see if that stuff is working, because those are pretty important in some of the new Wicklow trades as well. So let's go ahead and test that out. Alright, we've got our alignment blade. Let's go insert it, see if they spawn, and see if it'll let us loot them. Okay, there they are. They're spawning now, which they had not been doing for a while. So we'll go ahead and get some of these guys down, and then we'll see if we're able to loot them. It looks like we are able to damage them. Although my gun's having a real hard time trying to reload. They are pretty tanky, though. Okay, so now we've got them down. Let's see if we're able to loot the fangs off of them. Looks like we are. So it looks like... Let's see. Looks like they have 3 fangs each. From what I can tell, it's kind of on the edges of their mouth there. So yeah, it looks like that finally works. You're able to kill the juvenile Valakkar. You're able to loot the fangs off of them. Really, really cool. But let's see if we look at one of these fangs. It doesn't have a description yet. It's like the placeholder name for it, but it's the Valakkar juvenile fang. So I'm assuming, again, it's used, from what I understand, in some of the new Wicklow trades, but I'm sure down the line there'll be uses for it in crafting and all those sorts of things. It'll be very useful. So good to see that those have been fixed. But that is going to do it for today's video, going over the latest PTU updates. Again, really happy about the turret changes. I'm hoping we get some more changes for other ships that have turrets that may have just been left out or whatnot in this patch. I think there's a couple other things they could do to make turrets a little bit better, but I think this is a very solid start. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments on the turret changes. Do you think they're too much? Do you think they're too little still? What other changes would you suggest that CIG could make to make those more viable? And also, what do you think about any of the other things we covered today? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, I will see you in the verse.